Welcome to episode number 4, mission number 3, called A Broken Pirate. The character in this mission is James Blackwood, my friend Jeff's character. This is his first mission in the GURPS RPG, and he is starting at 165 points. The setting is our world of Phoenix, which we have created that is a fantasy-based world with a psionics element rather than magic. To find out more about this world, you can listen to our first episode, in Intro to GURPS and the World of Phoenix. I am Jay, and with me are my friends Kirk and Jeff. Kirk is our GM. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you very much for being with us. How are you, Kirk?
Greetings. I'm doing really good for today.
Excellent. Good. And Jeff, how are you?
I am full of Donair and vodka, so I'm fantastic.
Donair. Oh. Oh, I love Donair. All right. So, we are glad that you're with us this time, Jeff. You mostly have been into video games in the past. Have you ever played any other pen and paper RPGs before, and have you played them a lot?
I have played some pen and paper RPGs in the past. I've done a Serenity campaign, which is Firefly. Played that campaign all the way through. We did a Mutants and Masterminds campaign, and kind of played halfway through a Star Wars campaign before it all fell apart. So I'm familiar with them, really enjoy them. So,
was that the one where you blew up a planet that you're telling me about? I mean, I didn't play those other two, but I played a little bit of Star Wars, and it was pretty cool.
The planet blowing uppy was actually Serenity, and yeah, we blew up a planet, and we pretty much destroyed that poor GM's game in every single way. I feel really bad for him. He had all of these grand schemes, and they all fell apart.
So you aimed to misbehave then, yeah?
We aimed to misbehave.
Yeah. He
said it was the fastest fist to knife to gun fight he had ever witnessed in all the games he had GM'd. So that was an achievement, I guess.
Wow. So Kirk, you this is a challenge. You got to wrangle him and Joss and the other guys.
You know what? You guys haven't been too bad. Now, don't get me wrong. You guys pulled some shit, let me tell you. I never really know what a session is going to be like with you guys, but I also don't make the GM mistake of making too many plans, because when you have completely different people all facing completely different situations, you really don't know what's going to happen. So plan for things to go completely differently than you expected. And you know what? Sometimes it's fun as a GM because I don't know what's going to happen. So I just kind of roll with it. It's okay, well, let's see where this goes. Who knows what's going to happen, right?
Honestly, no matter how you handle it, it's always funny. Even if they dismantle what you do, you still recover in some way and do something else, or you spin it in another way. And honestly, man, it's been fun.
I'm glad you guys feel that way, because you know what? At the end of the day, my style of GMing is I want to make a good story, and I want my players to have fun. I want them to be challenged. I want them to be scared for their lives a little bit, but I'm not your classic GM total party kill as a goal kind of GM. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've still been up against some pretty serious stuff that I've wondered what was going to happen.
Well, you guys have been hurt before, for sure. I mean, you've been taking on some serious stuff, and you're like, oh, crap, you know?
I also wanted to thank you, Kirk, too, for the music that you made for the intro and the outro of the show, too.
Oh, sure, yeah. No, I used to do that for a living, so it was nice to get back into it for a little bit. I enjoy it very much.
Awesome. All right. Well, Jeff, before we get going on James, is there anything else you wanted to add at all?
Kirk, you've done a fantastic job with the games, keeping it open and light. So just kudos to you on that. And not having a hard and fast, I guess, line of sight on how you want to do things is probably healthy, because you'd probably pull your hair out otherwise.
Well, yeah, for my sanity it is, for sure. Because you know what? Here's the way I approach it. I just say, look, there's some people in the world doing these things. How you guys react to what these people are doing in the world, that's entirely up to you. I don't plan how you guys are going to react. I plan, here's what the people are doing. You do your thing. And I sort of plan, okay, how do these people that I've put in the world now react to what you guys are doing? What are the consequences to that? Are there going to be consequences now? Are there going to be consequences a little bit further out that you guys don't know about yet? So it's all about reacting and trying to see, so you give your characters, like the non-player characters in the world, you give them motivation, you give them a secret, and you give them a few skills here and there, you give them some contacts, and you just let it all play out. So like I said, I'm really, really happy you guys are enjoying the game, because I love GMing, and you guys are all very creative people. So you guys give me lots of backstory and lots of juicy bits to hook into, as it were.
You've done that before, and it's been very funny. Somebody's done something, then sometimes they think this is funny, and they do something, and they kind of be an idiot, and they just think it's funny in the moment, and you write it down, and there's been repercussions, and the look on their face when it comes back to them, it's magic, dude.
Yeah, the whole biting people in the butt thing is, it's a GM perk. You know what? If players want to do something stupid, fine. You know what? You're having fun. That's okay. I'm not going to take that away from you. I'm not going to punish you for it now, but I'll write that down. And if the right moment comes up, you have to learn as the player that your character's actions have consequence. Mostly it's just for fun, but sometimes it could get serious.
Especially if you have weirdness magnet.
Oh, we talked about that last time. Yeah, that's always fun as a GM, but it can make things really interesting for the players too. So, and there's more coming. I got some stuff up my sleeve.
We've played a few sessions already. Jeff, are there any major differences in how you play a character in GURPS, or maybe just the way we handle GURPS versus an RPG video game, or other pen and paper RPGs that you've played?
Yeah, there's definitely a huge difference. One is there's a huge amount of customization that's available with the GURPS system. So, with other pen and paper systems, you're kind of locked into a class that has a very set amount of skills, or a very set level progression. Even in video games, I'll use Mass Effect as an example. You have little bubbles and pips as you move along. You can only choose certain ones, and your character is going to stay the same as you grow. With GURPS, it's so customizable that you can do pretty much whatever you want with the character. So that's a huge difference. The other huge difference is the dice. I have to say, I was pretty shocked that it was just the 3d6 system when I was used to d20s, d4s, and having this big bag of dice, and all I was using was 3d6 basically. So that was a big shock.
Yeah, I think Steve Jackson's approach was that everybody has 6-sided dice in their house. If you have a board game and it has die in it, it's gonna be a 6-sider 99.9% of the time. And the design, I believe, with them was just so that it was easy.
Yeah, it was all about accessibility early on. I mean, we talk about the customization. There's so much depth and detail you can put into this game. So many rules. So it feels like sometimes if you look at it all, it's totally not accessible. But the core basic part of it, the mechanic part of it, is extremely accessible. You need 3 dice or 1 die you roll multiple times. Who cares? All the damage is off the die 6. All the skills are all the die 6, and it's a very straightforward system. And I mean, you can get a 1-sheeter that gives you everything you need to just jump in and play the game. One sheet, that's it. You fold it up, put it in your pocket, you're good to go. It's got everything. So I think that was the whole point of it, right? But you can now. I mean, there's so much depth to it. There's so many books and whatever. And they're adding more now. So, but yeah, it's a big of a difference. You're going from your standard, your polyhedral dice, right? You're set from D4 to D20 all the way up, and like, oh, just 6-siders, huh? I'll just put this big bag of dice over here.
Yeah, it was definitely weird. I think we're all, quite a few of us in the group are tech guys. So I like to describe it as it's kind of like the Linux of of RPGs
Oh, that's
Oh yeah.
interesting.
because
Interesting.
it's not like a packaged deal. Like you can customize it as you go, and you build this thing that you make your own, and it's
Yeah.
just kind of a trip. So
Well, we've
Yeah,
totally made it our own for sure. Like with the Phoenix system, when we moved over to GURPS, I mean, we chose what books we wanted to pull from. We chose what rules we thought made sense, and we just okay. Well, here's our package of the GURPS rules that make sense for our world, and that's what we used. And when we came to our psionic system, the elemental control stuff, we had to pull mechanics from GURPS, relabel them because we only wanted the mechanics, not the labels for it or whatever, and what the names were for stuff. We're like, okay, well, but then we still needed to modify it again to really make it what we needed. And that's the beauty of it is you can do that. You make these house rules, but you write them all down. Everybody knows what they are, so it's all agreed upon. So it's not like we're making it up as we go along, but it's that customizable.
great. So the last few adventures we were with Kelton and Xanatos. Now this one is almost happening around the same time because eventually our characters we're all going to meet up. We're going to be a bigger group, and we're going to be playing together for the most part. This is kind of the intro and just getting our feet wet. So could you please tell us a little bit about your character James Blackwood without revealing too much yet? And we want some aspects to come out later as we play.
So James is a human avian mutation, meaning he looks human, but does have some bird-like advantages. He has black hair, gold eyes, and tan skin. He is 31 years old. As mentioned, James used to be a pirate and until recently captained his own merchant airship. So he has the skills that would make sense for that type of character. We took James's sword fighting, brawling, and gun skills into a skill pool called Swashbuckling, as that just made sense for the character, and GURPS allows you to do that. As I mentioned, James was until recently the captain of his own airship. That was a legit business. He left piracy behind. Unfortunately, he was betrayed by his first mate and literally stabbed in the back and thrown overboard. He was able to make a last-ditch burst of air with his elemental ability to break his fall enough. Not to die, but he was a very broken man. He was found by a kindly older elf named Sigurd, who nursed him back to health. He is now on a quest to seek revenge and get his ship back. Due to his injuries, he suffered a lot of disadvantages, such as aches and pains, back pain, and the like. These will definitely come up during the story, so I don't want to go too much into them. But I think that about sums up James and where he is in the stream of time in the game storyline.
Thanks so much, Jeff. All right, I guess we're going to just dive into the story. Kirk, would you be so kind as to start us off with the setting after James was injured and kind of nursed back to health and brought back, and
Absolutely.
I believe he's just starting on the road.
Yep, pretty much.
But you can
Pretty much.
you can tell us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We ended up doing this sort of like a one-on-one over Telegram just to kind of get Jeff familiar with the system on his own. He doesn't have to worry about having too many friends around or whatever. So there's just kind of a straight up one quick off story, as it were. So basically, James, having recovered sufficiently to move on, he's on the road to Griffin's Claw. Griffin's Claw is the major city in Phoenix. It's like where all the races come together to do buying and selling and so on and so forth. So it's the big city, as it were.
Yeah, it's kind of central, I believe, even to the geographically in the world.
It is, yeah. So basically, where all of the lands that are owned by the different races kind of meet in the middle. That's Griffin's Claw, named after the actual Griffin's Claw that the founder found in the area before he, put an X in the ground, and that's where he started building from. As legend goes. So on the road to Griffin's Claw, James encounters a gnome merchant. The gnome's name is Dinglethorpe Tweepleduke, and he greets James warmly and offers to sell him a few trinkets and so on. And so Jeff, being a merchant, of course, James, played by Jeff playing James. There we go. He haggles a little bit, and So if you wanted to jump in there, Jeff, and tell me from your perspective how that played out.
So basically, see this gnome appear, and he's saying he's got all of these trinkets for sale. James rolls his merchant skill, as he is a merchant and likes to haggle. He works with the gnome, finds out he's got some nice trinkets for sale, gets a iron skin amulet from the gnome.
Mm-hmm.
He passes up on the health potions, as he's pretty careful with his money. He doesn't want to spend it all right now. He doesn't want to blow it. So he just gets the iron skin amulet, talks him down in price. The gnome is kind of high on the price, but he notices that the amulet might not be the perfect quality, so he's able to talk him down to 300 coin. He grabs that, and basically, I think the gnome gives him a piece of advice after that, which I'll give to you.
Yeah, one part I thought was I had a little bit of fun with is that when James asked him, "Well, do you have anything else for sale?" After he takes a look at the iron skin amulet, the gnome says, "Oh, sure." So he puts his bag down, the bag of goods and stuff, and he climbs down into it, like down a ladder, and disappears entirely. And you can hear it echoing down there, and you can hear him looking for stuff, tossing stuff around or whatever. Like, you kind of peek over the bag, and you can see that it's inside of a vault is basically what's on the other side of this bag, which I thought was just a fun little piece of it's bigger on the inside, kind of a fun thing we did. And his prices were actually fairly decent, but you kind of find out later that they don't always work as well as you would like them to. So that's why he was willing to let you haggle them down. But you still made a good merchant roll, so you got a fairly expensive piece of equipment for a decent price. But yeah,
it was a good piece of kit.
Yeah, and basically after you were done with that, and you said, "Okay, you know what? I think that's all I'm going to buy today." As the gnome is picking up his bag and swings it over his shoulder, turns to him and says, "And if you ever find yourself in the swamp, always remember, not everything wants to kill you. Most things want to kill you, but not everything. Ta-ta."
Yeah, watch out for those rodents of was it rodents of unusual size?
Yeah. Something like that. It wasn't a fire swamp, but yeah.
No. Of like the best movie ever made.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Quick question. That amulet, I'm assuming it gives him slight physical damage resistance.
Yeah, it improves his DR, his damage resistance for sure.
Okay.
That's what an Iron Skin amulet does. I think it was DR 2?
2.
Yeah.
2 to the whole body.
Yeah.
That's really good considering it goes on top of everything else you have.
Oh,
especially starting out. That's really, really good.
Yeah, no, he got a good price on it, but you find out later it doesn't quite work as well as you'd like. So that comes up in another adventure, I think.
Caveat emptor.
Yes, caveat emptor, exactly. Buyer beware. But yeah, so then James spends the night in the sleeping in the woods. Yeah, never trust gnomes. That's the lesson right here.
Oh yeah.
But, so James spends the night in the woods, but James's character has insomnia. As a disadvantage. I think we mentioned disadvantages in GURPS the first episode there, and how it allows you to regain some of the points that you spent for advantages and other things, but it kind of gives them back to you in the form of disadvantages, but it means something bad happens. So as the GM for this particular disadvantage, I had to roll to see if he slept well or if the insomnia kicked in. Thankfully, the roll went well, and he didn't experience insomnia. And then I had to roll to see, well, how long is it going to be? How many days is it going to be before it'll probably kick in again? And so I had to write down in my notes a date that I have to then check in-game. When does this date show up? And I have to roll for his character once again to see if he gets a bout of insomnia, which can last multiple days, where he gets bad sleep, and then that means he gets skill penalties throughout the session and so on. So disadvantage is the thing, is that it will do something bad to your character for a period of time or whatever. That's why it's there, why it gives you these points back, because it's a risk-reward kind of a deal. And then the next day, James carries on, but lo and behold, in the distance in the road, what does he see? He sees a badly constructed ambush for some bandits.
Well, he has a suspicion of one anyway. There's two gentlemen walking on the road ahead of him, and he sees them walking. They're not really paying attention to James. So James, what he decides to do is walk casual and start whistling.
But not look like you're watching casual.
Yeah, just walk casual, but don't look like you're walking casual. And one of the guys looks back, notices James, and just continues walking. James notices that they have the bulge of a weapon under their cloak, so he kind of hangs back a little bit. And this is kind of where the fun of the Phoenix world came out, because I never really thought about using elements before. So being able to think, how could I use this to protect myself from an ambush I think might be coming? It might not be coming. I could just be crazy, but so I asked if I could create some sound effects with air and a little dust cloud to basically go ahead of me and up over the rise of the hill that they had just passed over, and see if they do anything.
And that's the beauty of the way we have our psionic system set, is it allows for creative use of the elements to solve role-playing problems, not just combat.
Yeah, you tried to base it on you learned the GURPS magic system, because they do have a psionic system, but it is not really tooled in an elemental way.
Not
And
exactly.
we kind of wanted to have more of a freedom of having the quote unquote cool magic powers, but being able to modify things. And that's what this allows you to do. So you figured out the math behind their magic system and tooled it in a way that we could pull from it.
Yeah.
And
make it modular.
Yeah, and we've been kind of tooling a quote unquote psionic system for years, and then when we got into GURPS, you thought, you know what, I've got more tools available to me, and item and what's the word I'm looking for, and examples of system working that's got a tested math system for what things are worth and what they do, and you applied some of their rules from their magic system that's existing into a system that is modular yet expandable at the same time.
Exactly. The intent was to have it, instead of memorizing things like they did in D&D or in GURPS, it's every single individual spell is a skill, but it pretty much does the same thing every time. You can make it slightly stronger, but really it's the same thing every time. I wanted something that allowed people to be creative and adaptive in the moment when they want to do something. So, like, for example, James saying, oh, I want to make some sound, I want to do the air. Yeah, absolutely. He knows how to shape air. He can shape the air into sound effects. He can shape the air to move around and toss up dust clouds. It's not a specific quote unquote spell that he's memorized. Oh, dust cloud, small. That's not how it is. He just said, okay, here's the creative thing I want to do. How do we do that? And so we work out, okay, well, you have the skill of shaping air. That's the skill you roll under, same as any GURPS skill. And then it costs you fatigue points. So like the quote unquote mana system that you find in some video games and such. So it just costs him a little bit of mental effort, which is what the fatigue points in this case represent. And he made the sound effects go, and he made a little bit of dust go. That simulates him walking. So the bandits in theory would think that he's still walking, but about a few meters ahead of him where he's actually at. So again, creative use of elements and stuff. So just a little side note there, Jeff, but I thought it was a good opportunity to mention that.
Yeah, it's essentially modifying, it's essentially illusion, right, in a different way.
Well, this case was
more
literal.
Creative.
Yeah, it was actually it was an illusion, but it was literal wind blowing literal sand,
Correct.
literally shaping air to make sounds.
Yeah.
And it's a little different than magic.
Oh yeah, for
Because
sure.
magic, you think of a lightning bolt, a fireball, an ice spear. You think of magic spells as how you see them in a game or a movie. The elements is a little different. You start thinking, how can I use the dirt in front of me, or the ground, or that rock, or that tree, or the air, or the electrical fields, and all of these different play styles start coming to your mind. You're like, holy crap, there's so much I can do, and you feel like overwhelming power. And then you're like, oh, I guess I'm gonna have to get those skills up.
Well,
So-
yeah, you still have to have the skill points for sure. But it's that allowing people to be creative as their characters. That just there's a system in place. If you want to do a thing, there's a way to creatively do that in the moment. Figure out what skill to roll. Figure out how many fatigue points that's going to cost you, and then what the result will be. And it's all right there, which is really nice. And again, it's like we call it psionics, but it's like a super science where just briefly we talked about in the first episode, but it's you're using your brain waves in certain patterns that trigger particle fields that are on this world that they're living on that then cause these chain reactions in the world around them. So that's this elemental control as it were, and that's what James was doing here in order to creatively thwart a potential ambush. So how did that ambush work out?
Well, the illusion worked. One of the guys up ahead shot at the illusion as it crested the hill. So there was some swearing on the bandit's part. So James went off the road into the forest, off to the left. He used his stealth skill that he has to sneak through the forest and see if he could flank the bandits.
Yeah, and he managed to do that fairly well. He got some good rolls in there for sure. And then he sees that one of the bandits for sure has a form of flintlock of some kind. And
Yes. And actually, I think I succeeded my stealth rolls all the way up until I was right behind him, and then I guess he got a really good detection roll.
that is possible.
Turned
Yeah,
around.
yeah, because your stealth roll is what penalizes their perception roll, right? So it can go either way. Because just because you succeeded your stealth roll doesn't mean they're not going to notice you. It just means that however much you succeeded, that's a penalty to their perception roll. So I think you still got your stealth roll, but only like by one, and he got his perception by more than one. So that kind of how mechanically that's how that worked out.
Yeah, and I think even with that, he got a really good roll.
Yeah, he did.
He
But you were like
turned
literally
around.
right behind, though. You're like literally right there. It's like, oh crap.
He turned around, shot. The shot went wide.
Well, yeah, because it was
At which point, I asked, "Is this the guy that shot before?" And
Yes, you asked me
said-
that. Yes.
And you said yes, it was. And I asked, "How long does it take to reload a flintlock?"
Yeah, it's 20
Yeah.
seconds.
And I
Normally?
asked, "How long does it take to sneak up on the guy?"
Yeah.
And you said about 5 seconds. And so I asked, "That's awfully weird."
Yeah.
So at that point, you pointed out that it wasn't a normal flintlock. So
No, it was a double barrel, actually. He had 2 shots on it.
yeah, which I was excited about, some exciting loot. So that wide shot opened the way for me to pull the trigger on my ready gun, and I got him with a gut shot.
You did, yeah,
Which-
because you had a flintlock as well.
I did, and put him out of commission. At that point, he was pretty much out of the fight, and I told him, "If you want to live, I can heal you, but I need you to tell the other guy to surrender right now." And that actually worked out.
Yeah, I had him do a reaction roll to that, and he decided that, yeah, you know what? That's probably the best choice. So he did. Then you looted the crap out of them.
Well, except for their clothes. I let them keep their clothes.
But you took their boots, though.
No, I let them keep their boots.
Did you? I thought you. No,
You're
I was pretty
thinking
sure
of
you.
that as someone else.
He's not Kelton.
Oh, you know what? You're absolutely right. You let them keep their boots, but okay, if there's another adventure coming up, we'll talk about that another time. But yes, yeah, you let them keep their boots. But what you did find out, though, is that double barrel flintlock was a double barrel flintlock. However, the holster that it came with was an auto reload holster. So it actually, when you holster the weapon, it'll reload both of those barrels on its own in 5 seconds, which you were pretty excited about.
I was very excited, and it's been my mainstay weapon since in the game. It's a fantastic weapon. At least I haven't found anything to replace it yet. Let's put it that way.
No, what I kind of wanted to do with each of the characters is we started off with them on the road here, is to give them at least one cool thing they could each have to start with. And then
Kelvin got an elephant for Pete's sakes. Come on.
That is true. I don't think that's what I was counting for that particularly, but he did have the pink elephant for sure. But yeah, no, the next adventure after there's 3 of you, I think, is when I gave out the beginning loot for everyone else. But in this case, James, I think it was kind of catching up to that, so he had the opportunity to have this. And I think, well, what does a swashbuckler want more than a double barrel flintlock with an auto reload holster? I mean, come on. That's a dream.
It was perfect. It was a dream weapon. Exactly. And I got a whole bunch of extra loot that I could take and sell, and use my merchant skill to get some extra dough, which was great.
Yeah, you went back into the closest, the next town over, and I believe it was in Grimscliff is the name of the town that you had made it to, and went to a Khajiit merchant named Nazir. This one has many good things for you.
Yeah, I love that. It's not Skyrim. We obviously pulled it from the Elder Scrolls, but we don't care. It's fun and whatever.
Well, you know what? It's fun as a GM and is tossing in pop culture references from movies and video games we know everybody's played.
Oh, it's fun. We all have a laugh.
You put it in there, people recognize it for what it is, and you go, okay, I see what you did there. I mean, you don't make money off these, so it's not like we're breaking copyright and earning money off of something. Everybody knows where this is from, so it's not like it's, I invented the Khajiit. No,
especially when you break into the voice, it all clicks in and our eyes light up and we laugh because it's fun.
And it's fun for everybody, right? It is, So that's why I make the occasional alchemist / merchant, or sometimes and more often not Khajiit, because they're a fun voice to do, and it's great to be selling to people. You have things, I have coin. You have coin, I have things. So that was fun. So he sold all his loot.
Fantastic.
Managed to get some extra little dough. And then he headed off to the local inn, which is the Flaming Crab. And he actually asked about that. And he turns out
as you would.
Well, like you would. It wasn't a former brothel or anything like that. The inn was actually named for the beast that the owner is famous for slaying, the bounty for which helped to purchase the building. And the owner was a dark elf named Wilsa the Blue. So she used a salve of slaying to get rid of the flaming crab. Is that what that was?
I think that was Jay's contribution, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mind went there. I'm sorry.
And then the next day... then you end up meeting up with someone else, and we carry on from there. I think. Yeah, I think because I think you end up trying to look for a horse to try to drive it to ride into Griffin's Claw, and you end up having to haggle over price because apparently there's a tournament that was just announced, so the horses, the prices are all like doubled and stuff.
Exactly. What had happened was before I had stayed at the inn, I had come to an agreement on the price of a horse.
All right.
When I stayed the night and came to collect on that agreement, the price went up because the announcement that a tournament came about. So I was upset and haggling with the horse merchant, or I guess rental company. Rent a hag, I guess.
Rent a nag? Yeah, rent a nag.
Rent a nag. Yeah, not a hag.
Yeah, you're not a hag. Yeah, it's okay. Well, you can rent a hag, but that's the brothel down the street. You don't want to go there.
That's the other flaming crab.
Yes, that is the other flaming crab. Yeah,
Rent-A-Mare is a little bit better quality.
Yes, exactly. It's all good.
All right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. That was good. So now we know about James Blackwood, our swashbuckling ex-captain who was betrayed, and then we will see him meet up with the other guys, and we'll cover their stories or their intros, so to say, later. Thank you so much again, gentlemen, and please be with us for the next chapter in our story.